Hello, and welcome to Isaac's Reviews. Welcome back to those of you who have been watching my channel. Welcome for the first time to you first-time viewers. It has been a little bit since my last review. You all are probably no stranger to the fact that you've got family and a job. Life gets busy. Life gets busy, and projects like this get put on the back burner. In my case, I have family stuff going on, I've got a job, and I've been working very studiously on my first book. And that is almost ready to come out. Expect an announcement fairly soon. I've been working on some edits and some rewrites and the cover and getting it all formatted and figuring out the self-publishing process. And so I am very excited here in the very near future to be able to share this with you guys, and frankly, anyone who will buy it, because I'm not going to say no to money. So, very excited. Hopefully I'll have like an official announcement for you guys soon, but just so you know, I've been busy. Book for today, the review for today is one of my favorites. I know I say that in all of these. If I'm going to review a book on this channel, mark it down, it's because I've enjoyed it in some capacity. I may not enjoy it as much as some of the others, but if I'm going to review a book at all, it's going to be because I've enjoyed it in some capacity. A lot of these reviews are going to be books that I have enjoyed a while ago. You know, I read them a while ago. I haven't necessarily read them right this minute, you know. So a lot of these will be older books that I've had for quite some time. Every so often you'll get a new book review. I've reviewed the Mage Leader's book, and that was very exciting, and I thoroughly enjoyed that and just had to review it pretty much immediately. But today, I am reviewing a book that many of you probably read in school. If you did not, you need to rectify that immediately, because there is a reason this book is a classic. This book is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This copy, I went to read this book a while ago, half a year ago or so, and realized I did not have a copy. I don't know why. I didn't have a copy. This copy was bought for me by my wonderful family not very long ago, and I immediately dived in and consumed it once again. This is not the first time that I've read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And just look at this. This is beautiful. It kind of glows in the dark. I don't know. It just looks mighty pretty to me. So, presentation does matter, fellas, ladies. Presentation does matter, and this is presented very well. But let's get into it. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Most of us read it in school. If you did not, I pity you. You need to read this book as soon as you can. Probably most of us have seen the various Frankenstein movies. Those are fine. They're not the book at all. You will be hard-pressed to see an accurate representation of Frankenstein in the old scary movies. Frankenstein is the story of Victor Frankenstein and his monster. Yes, the monster's name is not Frankenstein. The book is named for the creator of the monster. Nitpick, personal pet peeve, call it what you will. I will state that again. The book is named for the creator of the monster, Victor Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein. The book is told through letters that he wrote. It starts off with a ship finding a man dying in the frozen north. And he proceeds to tell them his tale. His wild, strange, macabre tale. Victor Frankenstein grew up wealthy, well-to-do, loved his cousin. You know, he's English, so we're not going to really dunk too hard on them. They're pretty terrible. But Victor Frankenstein loved his cousin, grew up wealthy, and through a series of circumstances decided he was going to become a doctor. He studied. He made very good friends. Again, loving the cousin. Moved, went to a university of Ingolstadt, and witnessed some people close to him. And I don't know, I wouldn't call it his formative years, but his later teens, early adulthood, witnessed people close to him dying. And this formed a very, very pronounced effect on young Victor. He decided that he hated death and didn't want anyone else to experience it. And he was going to find a way to essentially conquer death. This book, to my surprise, rereading this book is not so much the horror story that I remember. It is more a tale of a man's descent into madness. Victor starts off as a fairly well-intentioned young man, prideful as all get out, incredibly arrogant, but well-intentioned. And then he has a series of circumstances. People close to him die, and he decides he's going to become a doctor. And then other people close to him, again, die. He falls in love with his cousin. He's separated from his cousin. His cousin's name is Elizabeth. He falls sick at various points throughout his life. He has a number of interesting theories about life and death and medicine, and he's shouted down about those theories at the various universities that he's gone to. And he decides that he's going to defeat death. And so he decides to create the monster, Frankenstein. And it is with a weird state of maddened frenzy that he attempts this. He's digging up body parts in graveyards. He's cobbling together scientific equipment. I'm sure many of you have seen that old clip of, "It's alive! It's alive!" Like, Victor is crazy. And he tries to rationalize it and, say that he's doing this for science. But then he realizes, in his own words, that he made some horrible mistakes in doing this, in raising this creature to life. He raises this creature to life and then instantly hates the creature. He, let me see here if I can find it. Let's see. Yes, he describes the feelings that bore him onwards as a hurricane. He, incredibly arrogant and crazy, he saw a new species would bless him as his creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. He was deluded in the extreme. He saw himself as a creator, as a replacement for God. This Victor Frankenstein, he, while at the same time working himself to the bone, he'd lost tons of weight, he was emaciated, he was frenzied, he didn't sleep. And this man in this weakened, maddened state, created life or restored it to a corpulent body. And when he did, it immediately horrified him. The body that he had stitched together, pieced together, and thought was so wonderful and so glorious and strong, and this was the next evolution of human beings. As soon as he gave it life, which in the book, it's not lightning necessarily that gives this creature life. It's a weird mix of drugs and electricity, yes, but it's also just a weird mix of drugs and electricity. And it gives this creature life and immediately hates it. He hates this thing that he has created. So much so that he abandons it. And then promptly loses it. The creature wanders away. I'm trying to find a specific passage here. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, he beheld the wretch, the miserable monster he created, demoniacal corpse to which he had given life. And he leaves it locked in the room that he created it in, and has nightmares that evening. He abandons it and goes to see his friends. He goes to see Clerval, one of his friends. He thinks of Elizabeth. When they're going back to the room that he has this creature locked in, he opens the door and is fully expecting to see this creature, and the creature's gone. And he's talking to his friend Clerval about how his recent state has been horrible. He's writing letters to his cousin Elizabeth about how his recent state has been terrible. So this creature, this Frankenstein's monster, you all know this story fairly well, at least you should. Hated by his creator, wanders off, befriends an old blind man. Blind man's family doesn't like him, hates him, wanders off there. Realizes that he hates his creator because of the miserable way that he's created him. He kills this little boy that this girl named Justine is taking care of because he is a malevolent, angry, evil creature. Like, he is not some poor, put-upon person. He makes bad choices. Now, some may argue that, he's lashing out at a father figure that doesn't love him. True, but he also did murder a child. So let's keep that in mind. Frankenstein's monster is not necessarily entirely innocent. Sets up a girl to, be hanged for the murder of a child. Torments Victor Frankenstein. Demands that he make him a wife. And is very well spoken. That's another thing the movies get wrong all the time. The creature is practically an orator, especially by today's standards. Good lord. Very well spoken. Reads constantly once he was taught to read. Here you go. Let's see. Thus I relieve thee, my creator, he said, and placed his hated hands before my eyes, which I flung from me with violence. Thus I take from thee a sight which you abhor. Still thou canst listen to me and grant me thy compassion. By the virtues that I once possessed, I demand this from you. Hear my tale. It is long and strange, and the temperature of this place is not fitting to your fine sensations. Come to the hut upon the mountain. Like, the creature is not grunting and screaming at people. Like, he is a well-spoken Victorian man, be he scarred as well. He tries to reason with Victor Frankenstein on a number of occasions. Victor rejects him, does not love him, tells him to get away from him, and the creature becomes quite murderous. He kills a child, sets up a girl for the child's murder. He threatens Victor on a number of occasions. He, later, when Victor will not make him a bride, which he does, he makes him a bride, and then before he animates the bride, the book describes him as tearing her to pieces, because he's so abhorred by the idea that these two would create a master race of evil creatures, that he tears the woman creature to pieces. So the monster kills Victor's bride shortly after they're married. Murders her. It is horrific, the things that this creature and his creator do to each other. Let's see here. Yep, so he creates the woman creature. I'm flipping through the book is what I'm doing. He destroys the woman creature, the bride of Frankenstein, if you will. Frankenstein's monster is, of course, very, very upset, very angry. Let's see. Victor is like sickly and incredibly nervous the entire book after he's created the creature. Yeah, and then, he finds his bride murdered, and thus starts his chase of the creature. Once he murders Victor's wife, Elizabeth, his cousin. Again, weird, whatever. Once he murders Elizabeth, Victor proceeds to start chasing this guy. And again, this is told through, like, stories and some flashback. And then it kind of catches up to modern day, which is Victor on his last leg trying to find this creature. And he's telling the story to the ship's captain. Which is interesting because the ship's captain, upon hearing this story and hearing all of these details about how Victor's life just went down into the toilet after doing this, entertains the idea of finding Victor's notes and doing this himself, which is interesting for a number of reasons. He's a ship's captain. He's not a scientist, but he thinks he can do it. Okay, fine. And just the idea that, this turned out horribly for him, but, it might not turn out horribly for me. I might try this. It's very interesting I think the author is playing with the idea of the corruption that happens to the mind when it sees itself as more than it is. Victor saw himself as almost a godlike being, which is disturbing. And that's an aspect to this story that I hadn't really noticed before. I read this when I was much younger, and I didn't really notice that, Victor's an atheist in this book. He's raised in a relatively Christian religion, but the man does not claim Christianity at all. He is an atheist, he doesn't really believe in God, and he sees himself as a god, which is why part of the reason why he attempts this feat of creating something in his own image. It is from my interpretation of this, again, take it with a massive grain of salt, but this story seems to clearly be about man's own hubris, this pride, this driving force to be noted and to be marked by history and to be important. And it drives Victor insane. It drives him to his destruction. He creates this monster. And instead of loving this creation, like many gods would be described as loving their creation, for instance, the Christian God, which, for those of you who know me, I am a Christian. That is the belief system I ascribe to. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. The Christian God is described as loving his creation. In the Garden of Eden, he came and he walked with Adam and Eve. He made a path to redemption through the Old Testament and the New Testament with Jesus. He made a path to redemption for his creation. Victor is not a benevolent God. Even though he sees himself that way, he is a petty, angry little man. He is a petulant child throughout most of this book, and the consequences of his actions, he never really takes full blame for what he's done. Like, this is, make no mistake, Frankenstein, the murders that happen, this is all Victor's fault. Yes, this creature has free will and does these horrible things, but this is all stemming from Victor's hubris and his abandonment of this creation. Frankenstein. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. I've rambled for a long enough time. I would highly recommend you read this, even if you think you remember the story. I promise you don't. Like I said, it's been years since I read this initially, and I had forgotten and rearranged things in my head and substitute things from the movies. The book is much better than you remember. It can be a bit long-winded at times. It is Old English, but it is thoroughly entertaining, very good, better than any of the movies you've seen based on this. Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Read it. Love it. Maybe learn from it. Thank you.